Hi everybody, morning, good evening, good afternoon. New Heather coming to you live from my dining room. I always do this /workspace with tips, tricks, tools, and tactics for how to blow up your pretty on the outside life. The focus of my channel is on helping people who are in most likely a long-term relationship or marriage with somebody that I would label a Princess BS or a Prince Harming. They knowingly harm you. They are full of crap. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they devastate you. And they do it all in the privacy of your very own, very nice home or apartment or condo or tiny home or wherever you live. But the point being is that when it's just you and them, all bets are off in conflict. They will come for you and they will come hard. They will use anything they have to demean you, to devalue you, to devastate you for no reason. And a hallmark of this type of behavior is also withholding the apology when they know they've harmed you, because they also know that harms you. So if this sounds like something that you've had go on in your life, I'm talking to you. What I want to say is it starts with you and ends with you. You are liberating yourself via action. You are loving yourself enough to absolutely blow up your pretty on the outside life, period. And how do you blow up your pretty on the outside life? Well, first you have to recognize where you are, and then you have to recognize where you'd like to be, which is not in proximity to somebody that's harmful to you. And there's many shades of abuse, and there's many shades of definitions of abuse, but the one that works for me is the Duluth model, D-U-L-U-T-H, the Duluth model.org. Go there, look at the various wheels of power and control, look at the programming they do, and take a long, hard look at your life and how things are or are not. And consider your right to breathe free and easy in your own home. You should not have to alter everything you do or say to be convenient to other people. In fact, I became very inconvenient as I got strong, first to myself and then to others. I had to realize how stuck I was, and then I had it in my head and in my heart and in my booty that I had to get out. It took me a long time, but I did it. How did I do it? Quietly, methodically, carefully, using help, having a very small team. That's why I call it running it like an op, because when you have somebody who's on the down low doing weird stuff and saying weird stuff and acting weird, the issue is that you don't always know what's real, and they work very hard to make it like that. It's part of the control and manipulation thing. Oops, that's talking to me. I had some music playing, but now it's not playing anymore. Sorry, you guys. This is focus music. I want to focus on the fact that if you've been in a relationship with a Prince Harming or a Princess BS, you might be pretty dysregulated. You might not know which end is up because you're so attuned to them and trying to keep the peace that you actually become not present for yourself. You're trying to keep your head above water. You're trying to do the things to get by and to keep going. But at the end of the day, you've actually abandoned your own needs. And I'm not putting blame on you, and I'm not saying you, the way that Kim Jong in your head and your kitchen does. I'm saying it because you had to do that to keep the peace. So what you're going to do is you're going to shift the focus, but you're not going to hold up a flag and wave it, saying I'm concentrating on myself and getting strong enough to leave your skeegee ass. No, you are not going to do that. You are simply going to go about your business, and you are going to take yourself super seriously. So that means sleep, good food, outlets, such as working out, being outside, even if it means you're telling your family or your personal Kim Jong, I'm gonna go outside and do X, Y, Z, and you go do it as a chore, but really it's a moving meditation and it's part of setting yourself free. I always say I would be a shitty Buddhist. Why am I a shitty Buddhist? Because sitting still, I don't necessarily get into the zone easily if I'm just trying to sit in stillness. I'm much better if I go garden, for example, doing a task outdoors, mowing the lawn, even chainsawing. That's actually really fun. Just make sure you have the chaps and the eye stuff and the gloves and the glasses. I do better when I move my body in space doing a chore to get into a meditative state. So this is bringing me to the Noble Eightfold Path. There's a guy who's a really cool monk. His name's Ajahn Brahm, Anjahn Brahm. I look at his stuff on YouTube, and he helped me a lot. I took on a much more Buddhist way after I got out, because I realized that it really is about letting yourself float down the river, not trying to swim upstream. And I would be the one trying to micromanage the ocean and be like, no, you can't be that way. Oh, no, stop. And I was a micromanager on a large scale of many things that I could not control, mostly how others reacted to me. And one of the issues you're gonna have with a narc is that they choose you because you are hella fun. They bat you around like the kitty cat with the mouse, and they like grab you, and then they do some stuff with you, then they throw you down, they let you run a little bit, then they bat you around because they're fast and they come and get you. And so if this sounds like your life, I'm here to tell you about the Noble Eightfold Path, and you can apply this to how you're looking at your life and how you run your life. And here we go. Number 1, right view. Number 2, right thought, as in get this and this connected, and then get this going. Right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, as in right endeavor. And if you don't put too much expectation on the way things should be right now, for example, and you can live as you, and you get back into your body and your head and your heart, then you're going to go into a place of not getting stuck as much. In fact, you could get unstuck. So that leads to right mindfulness. Let go more. Do not struggle. Number 8, right concentration, right stillness. And what does that mean? It means, yes, you have to let go and you have to learn what type of stillness works for you. Sitting doesn't work for me, but going out and moving through space outside really helps me to become present. So that's how I got a lot of myself back as I was getting strong. I had to learn to get out of my own way, and I did. I did not tip people off. I did not hold a billboard or a banner. I did not wave the flag. And for the habits that I had that weren't serving me, I did change them, but I didn't necessarily tell my now husband that I was changing anything. I did not ask for permission. I simply did what I needed to do, set about getting myself in order so that I could blow the lid off of a marriage and shine the bright light of truth on what was really going on. It took me from 18 into 19 to get strong. In 19, I executed on the safety plan. And from 19, 20 into 21, the end of 21, there was quote unquote a divorce agreement after 2 failed mediations. I knew the mediations would fail, but I actually used the mediations to demonstrate to my second lawyer that I had to hire after I fired the first one what he was dealing with, what the mindset was, and also so that he could understand what we were up against, because the person that I was divorcing was a career salesperson who was in global business, and he had skills that exceeded my capabilities to do the things that he was able to do, because he was a master manipulator, and he actually knew how to really get stuff done at a high level. He was used to running people, he was used to running the show, he was used to hiring, firing, and lying. He was a liar. He was a cheater. He was a thief. That all became helpful to me later because the math piece is provable. Anything linear or forensic really helps in court, or it'll help you avoid a trial. It'll help them avoid a trial. So just know that no good deed goes unpunished. So if you're in a situation where maybe you're just trying to keep it all nice and not have conflict, I want to recommend that you get a handle on what your financial situation is. And what does that actually mean? It means exactly knowing what's what they've done, what they will do, what they're capable of doing, and then making sure that when you leave, you have some big sacks of paper that you can photocopy, because you're going to need them. When you divorce somebody who is not honest and who feels they have a lot more to lose than you do, they're going to come for you, and they're going to come hard, and their lawyer will come hard because their lawyer gets paid to go after you. So that lawyer is going after you, and the things that go on in court are terrible, and you will be quote unquote character assassinated by the other side when they do come for you. And what happens is when you actually go out and about after having been character assassinated in court by the other side's legal team, what happens is if you burst into tears and you tell somebody who you know what's going on, if it gets back to your Prince Harming or your Princess BS, what your truth is and what you might have said while crying is used to highlight you as manipulative, as mentally unstable, as defaming their character, and as a liar. And then that will be spun to the court to show you up as what they actually are, but they are so capable of being composed and anticipating how things will go that they appear to be unflappable. So what do? You study, and you study a little more, and then you figure out what person in history you're going to channel. For me, I channeled young Queen Elizabeth in court. Why did I do that? Because she was a young woman in her early 20s who was suddenly handed the crown, and she actually wasn't respected, and she didn't even have the book learning she needed because she was busy doing needlepoint when she should have been studying history, and she didn't have training on war. She did not have a knowledge base that would serve her in her role that she got put into sort of by default. And so what I did was I thought about the young Queen Elizabeth and how outgunned she was from the get. And then I became really serene, and I thought, what would young Queen Elizabeth do? She would not look like a freak in court. She would dress nicely. She would hold her head up. She would make eye contact. And she wouldn't actually show how upset she was because there was going to be no benefit from that. So that's what I did. And then I ended up having to fire my lawyer. So that's what I did. I hired out of the pond that I live in. I went to a bigger pond down the way, and I got somebody who quoted case law in his sleep. And he was excellent. He was a real pain in the ass, and I'm sure I was a pain in the ass to him, but he helped me a lot. And if I hadn't have been willing to interview lawyers, hire one, fire one, and hire another, I don't know how the case would have turned out, but I do know I learned a lot, and I really learned that sometimes you really need to get out of your own way. It was super hard for me because I was an overfunctioner. I was used to being in control or trying to be in control. And one of the things you'll find if you've been with a down low abuser who uses words and scenarios, events, holidays, they create situations so that they can pull the rug out from under you. And then when you talk to them about how hurt you are, then they come for you harder. This is all really down low, and you can't actually prove it. And in my case, even being gluten-free, I went gluten-free in 15 on the orders of a doc, a medical doc, not a quack, a doc, who said, go gluten-free, do this, do that. I did that, but come to find out 15, 16, 17, 18, into 19, my now husband was actually cooking with the ingredients that I had labeled things like not GF, NGF, not gluten-free. Everything in Fat Sharpie that I thought was being read, yeah, it was being read, but it was still being dumped into food that was being served to me. And so none of this is provable in court, but it's super undermining, devastating, and it did physical harm to me. It did. And what I want to say is that you just have to understand that the person that's willing to do the death by 1,000 cuts or to do harm to you, like with food as poison, that person's never going to be a better person. They can't get better, because the person that knowingly uses something you're allergic to cook food for you and allow you to eat that at the table with them and even with their parents, they're sick, and their sickness is not your sickness. So I had to really come to terms with the fact that I couldn't actually change it, but I could change myself, and I could make myself healthier and better and stronger. So I set about doing that, and I did it, and I did get very strong, and I am very strong. And sometimes you have to be broken down to be rebuilt, and you have to choose yourself. You have to choose love. And really, the phrase that got me on my path from one of the people that helped me, Nicole Doherty, Doherty, you can find her on the interwebs and all over the socials. Nicole's first phrase for me was, every day we have a choice to live in love or fear. I choose love, I choose myself. And that became a key mantra for me as I went forward, because I realized that consistently, not only was I self-abandoning, and I'm not saying that to diss myself, I'm saying that I had a habit of putting myself last, and also being apt to stay on the mat or to not make a fuss, because I knew if I made a fuss, that the actual devastation and the words and the deeds and the harm that would be the net result was going to be larger. So I learned to stay quiet because I was taught to stay quiet. And it's called indoctrination. It is POW Management 101. You become used to staying quiet and being manageable, because if you are unmanageable, the penalty is terrible. And then they penalize you, but then they give you a reward to keep you on the line. So this is where holidays come in. If you have holidays or special events, and for example, maybe it's Mother's Day, maybe it's your birthday, maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's all of the above, your Prince Charming or your Princess BS knows that Christmas occurs once a year. It's usually on the calendar and there's some marketing stuff around it. They know Valentine's Day occurs on the calendar, marketing stuff. Your birthday, they know that. They know when the anniversary is. They know the whole nine. But every other year, they forget one or more of those on purpose. And sometimes they'll do it right in a row. Like for me, it was Christmas, birthday, Valentine's Day, because Christmas is the 25th, birthday's January 2nd, Valentine's Day is February 14th. So like that was the trifecta. And so what happened was that person that claimed to love me would on purpose forget or say, I was too busy to get you a present. So this is a person that's managing a team of 64, that flies all over the place, that has resources and could even buy duty-free on a plane, but he forgot my birthday. And not one time, but a bunch of times. How do you do that? I don't know, because I don't forget things. I have the memory of an elephant. And I've used that because I've used it to show myself just how willing I was to suppress my memories, to not have to deal with them. And that's a huge part of narcissistic abuse, because you will be in a situation where if you recognize how devastating it was, it would force you to act. So you learn to not recognize it and you learn to manage. So here's what I'm gonna say about that. There's a guy named Dr. Glenn Patrick Doyle. He's on the socials. He's got a website. His stuff is little, it's accessible. It's a quick thing that'll snap you back. You are worth the trouble. You are worth the time. You are worth the hassle. You are worth the resources. You are worth the risk. You are worth the heartache. You are worth waiting for. You are worth fighting for and rooting for. You are worth believing in. Burn that into your brain. Okay, Glenn Patrick Doyle, bring it. So as you resurrect yourself and as you reform yourself into the version of you that you choose to be, that you are, and that you can be, what you're gonna find is, first, it's really inconvenient, but then it gets easier and you get stronger and you get stronger and you get stronger, and it's like a muscle, and so you work it. When you do hold a boundary, then they will absolutely crash through it. And the stronger you get, the bigger the crash is. So this is why I'm advising you. You can do a few tests to see how much they're gonna crash them even harder. And then you'll have proof positive. And this is where you go into very high gear, but you do not tip them off. In my case, I was able to do that. And in my case, it was really hard. I realized how much I operated alone and how lonely I was. And I also realized that it was my divine birthright to live in my best form and in my joy. And so instead of being all effed up, I allowed myself to be joyful. I would go outside, I would go do chores, and I would build in little pockets of joy here and there. And I would come in, and of course things weren't always rosy and nice. And of course, if I brought something up, there was gonna be a smash, crash, and a dash. But then I used that pattern to show me what a pattern is. And I really learned that I had operated in a framework, and that because I operated in the framework, I was expected to stay in that framework. So at no time did I actually have the opportunity to create the changes that I wanted to create within a marriage that wasn't truly a marriage. It was what is called an uneven power dynamic. And because I was in the one down and he was up here most of the time, what that meant was I was expected to stay down here. So if you rise up against that, the issue is that they're gonna roll over you harder, and it's negative reinforcement. And then there's intermittent rewards, straight POW. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna realize what you're dealing with, and you're gonna take yourself super seriously. And at night, when you're in your bed, after you've been doing some research using headphones and your phone or your device that you know is not being monitored because you've checked that, or your track phone that you bought with cash that your Prince Harming doesn't know about, you are going to go to places where you can get more information that validates your experience. You're going to talk to people that do trust you, that do love you, that do care for you, that will hold you in high regard. And when you're in your own home with somebody that you know is harmful to you or others, you're going to take yourself quite seriously. And if they ratchet it up to the point where it is dangerous and unbearable and arrestable, then you're definitely leaving. In my case, the day we had an arrestable event, I didn't know what to do. I didn't. And I did know that at that point, he had linked all the bank accounts to his IRA. So he could have actually emptied every single bank account with a few keystrokes. And I thought to myself, oh, I know, Doobs. The dog has a lot to say. I thought to myself, self, what do we do here? We have 31 days to go. Can we handle it? So I went and met with the chief of police, and I had a letter written up about what had really gone down because I hadn't called the cops. And the chief said, if you give me that letter, I'm duty bound to investigate. And in the end, I pulled the letter back off the table, thinking that I could handle it, because I was like, he's gonna empty all the bank accounts. I'm gonna have no money, nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. And it was gonna be even worse. And when I look back on it now, I don't know if I made the right decision, but I made the only decision I could make at that time. So I kept my original date, I executed on my plan, I did blow it up like an op, and it was absolutely successful with some failures. And what does that mean? It means I did get everybody out, everybody's in one piece, I didn't have them arrested, I didn't have a home to come back to. But it didn't matter. Why didn't it matter? Because I realized that if I rented a house, I could have no trespass orders filled out by my landlord. So I did that. I had a door that I could lock, and I had neighbors, so I felt safer. And the house would take pets. The house had a nice yard, and the house was 1.5 minutes from my son's school. I borrowed money. I withdrew the order to vacate at court, even though I didn't have a rental. I don't recommend doing that. But I put all my faith into the universe. And I also brought the guy a list of references that he could call, that he could check me out on the spot. And I said to him, I'm gonna write you a $200 good faith deposit on this place because this is how much I want this place. So here's all my stuff. And here's a $200 non-refundable good faith deposit so that you do your due diligence and check me out and choose me as your tenant. And even though I had 2 geriatric cats, a Doberman and a 12-year-old, I got the house, and I made it happen. I asked for help. This process of getting here to back into the marital home, 19, 20, 21, 22, I bought it back. It was a really hard 4 years. And it's been a hard few years since then. But I will tell you that no longer can my, what I call my now-husband, my now-husband can't do what he used to do. A, because he doesn't have access to me. and B, because the kid knows which way the wind blows. Right, Dubes? Dubes says, yeah. And the kid has a 90-pound weight advantage. 90 pounds. He's a big boy. He's a crusher. He can bench 3 times my body weight. So I'm not as worried about the kid because he's learned to fend for himself and he knows what he's dealing with. And he also comes back and tells me what's gone on because he does traverse 2 homes. The court, unless the person is hit and you can prove that they've been hit, for example, the court may not recognize domestic violence the same way as, say, the Duluth model, the Duluth Wheel of Power and Control recognizes it, but only the court can decide if your kid has to go back and forth. And that's why you have a lot of parents who defy court orders, take their kids out of state, and then the mom ends up in jail, for example. It's sucky. So what I'm gonna tell you I did was I came to terms with the fact that I could not prove what had gone on. I actually didn't really even have words for my own experiences until after I was out. And when I did have words, they came out jumbled. People said I was emotional. Imagine that. Anyhow, what I am is I'm a regular person trying to lead a regular life and be in my regular best form in regular joy. You sometimes get involved with people who you think are one thing, so you fall in love with a version of them that doesn't exist. And then when they show you who they are, because you've fallen in love with the false image that they've created, that is a product, the issue is that you're really stuck because it's hard to make sense of that public persona that's so charming and nice and loving. And then the other one that's the exact opposite, that only comes out when you're alone with them or when the kid is alone with them, and then you hear about it later and you're devastated for your child. And you know that if you go back and take that person on, that it's going to make it worse, not better, for you and the kid. So just remember that you have to think about things. And I want you to look at events. I want you to look at holidays. I want you to look at stuff that's pretty weird and hard to deal with. And then I want you to write it down. I want you to date it. I want you to put the context of it. And I want you to put that in a safe place so that you can refer to it, so that you can prove to yourself that you didn't make it up, that it's really real, this is when it occurred, and this is how it went down. And when your partner does something so unimaginably awful, word and deed, that all your knowledge of right and wrong returns, bingo, that is your call to action, to rekindle. You're rekindling yourself, your inner fire, and you're taking your power back. And one of the ways you can do this that doesn't cost you a single cent, but it really helps, is when you're going to sleep at night, when you're laying down, or if you have 20 minutes of peace, if you can find that, you're gonna shut your eyes and you're gonna imagine them being in front of you. And they're in your sphere, they're right here. And you're going to say, I know that I gave my power to you. I am now calling it back and taking it back from you. You no longer have access to my power. And then you're going to point. And you're going to say, leave. Leave now. I'm taking my power back. And then you are going to, in your mind, with your eyes shut, see them walk away, and they're walking away, and they're walking away, and they're walking away, and they're walking away, until you can no longer see them in the distance. And if you can do this exercise and visualize you acknowledging that you gave your power away, and then telling them that you are taking it back and that they have no access to you anymore, and you are pointing and you are sending them the F away. It makes their hold over you less strong, and it rewires you to be more here and to be more inside of yourself, as well as projecting outward. And the hard part for me was that I had been so quiet. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I swallowed it down. I swallowed it down. I swallowed it down. I did not know how to advocate for myself, because every time we got into a conflict, it became bigger, not smaller. And then when I said sorry or built that bridge back to them, that was more fuel for them for a targeted strike on me, using what I had said about how something hurt me to hurt me more the next time. And the gross part about this kind of stuff is that no, the courts don't recognize that, but it is so real and it's so devastating. So you may have to work on a lot of stuff after you're out, but that's okay, because you're gonna get out, you're gonna run it like an op, you're gonna blow shit up. And even if you have to maintain communications, you can't blow those up because you have kids. You're gonna have a new set of boundaries, and you don't have to take a billboard out, you just have to have them. I suggest putting a sticky note on your computer and even on your phone and even in your car, and it's gonna say, it's all about me and whatever your kid's name. And you're gonna bring the focus back on yourself. You're gonna bring your focus back on your child and being present. You're gonna be joyful. You're gonna nourish yourself, and you're gonna nourish the children or kids or relatives that you might have to take with you if you have a multi-generational household. If you can't get back into your house after you file, if they will not vacate, I really suggest having access to capital, because they want you to be penniless, they want you to be homeless, and they actually want to be able to take the kid and prove that you're actually unfit. So expect this to all be in the pipeline the moment you file. So the more reading you can do, the better. Rebecca Zung, Z-U-N-G, she's on YouTube. She also has books. She's a high-profile divorce attorney. She got the t-shirt. She went through law school, and she uses what she knows to help people in high-conflict divorce situations, which is what they label this, because unless your person's been diagnosed, you can't actually throw the terms around in court. It can and will actually look pretty bad for you. So if you do, he's a narc, he's a narc, he's a narc, expect that to come back and bite you on the booty. But if it walks like a narc and talks like a narc, it must be a narc. So just remember that. And then, what's the final thing I want to leave you with? Oh, I want you to look at or hear this song on whatever streaming service or wherever you can go, YouTube, wherever it's free if you don't want to pay money for something. The song To Be Free by Sam Smith. Sam put this song in the can 5 years ago. It just came out in July. Your homework for today is to go listen to the song by Sam Smith, To Be Free. And at the end of the day, it says, shake off all your burdens. Shame's no friend of mine. Lost my faith in perfect. We'll be home in time. And home is where you make it. You might have to drive away from your home to find your new home. That's okay. You can do it. And if you don't have a lot of stuff, it doesn't really matter, because stuff is just stuff, but you're you. So I want you to think about it. And I want you to understand that every day that you spend with somebody who's mean to you on the DL and who devastates you, devastates your children, or even lies about taking out your little Darby, like my little Darby over there. He used to not give her water. I used to drive back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on my way to make a delivery for our shared business. And I would come in and find her water bowl still up from after she had breakfast. If I brought that up, I just get yelled at. So I just drove home and did it and then walked back out of the house. When he was sitting here in this dining room launching his startup that was 911 out of 911 in the field. Go figure. So anyhow, despite the various things that have gone on, I was smart enough to get the pets out. I was smart enough to get me out. And I was smart enough never to go back. So you can do it. And how do you do it? You do it with loving yourself. And I always say, love yourself, baby. You do have to love yourself. And then once you love yourself, it just goes outwards and you will draw people to you. So for every one person you lose because the friend that ate your food is now going to choose to hang out with your Prince Charming because your Prince Charming might really still be charismatic and good looking and fun, it is totally fine because you know that protecting your peace and staying in your integrity is much more important than bitterness. Okay? So don't be so bitter and don't be so angry that you come out of your best form. Be joyful, but you hold a boundary. And if you tell somebody how you feel about something and they raise their voice to you, they are disrespecting you. So it is your right to end the call, end the relationship, and end any thought of a second chance for that person. That goes for family, friends, co-workers, people that are walking among us who decide it's easier to put the oppression on you than to hear you. You don't need them on your team. And in fact, they're not on your team. So you might as well come to terms with it. Take off the rose-colored glasses, wear what you want to wear, be the weirdo that you are, stay in your integrity and love yourself so that you can put every single bit you have both into yourself, into people and situations that do bring you joy and that hold you up. So with that, I wish you a beautiful day. I hope you come back. I hope you subscribe and comment. I'd like to hear what you have to say. I'm not bitter. I spent a lot of time really working through a lot, and it's a struggle every day. And what's the struggle? To recognize that I have a choice and to exercise that choice. So going back to the mantra, every day we have a choice to live in love or fear. I choose love. I choose myself. See ya.